Welcome, everybody, to the Film Ironic Podcast. Thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Awesome, here with my legal compatriot, TJ. TJ, tell the world hello.
Hello, world. How's everybody doing out there?
It would be interesting if there was a way for them, the minute we answer, just all of a sudden they were...
Right.
That we asked, they were answering immediately.
Find a way, people. Find a way to comment exactly at the moment. Put the timestamp in your comment, the exact moment that you're responding to us right now so that we know what you're responding to.
At a minute, 45 seconds, you said hello. I'd like to say hello back.
Hello back, yes.
Although, just imagine, how terrifying would it be if, like, we say that and then from behind us whisper, hello.
Yeah, right.
What? Oh my God! I almost blew our one F word that we.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You gotta be
PG-13.
You gotta be judicious about that.
Yes, we only get the one F word.
That's right.
This is a family-friendly podcast. PG-13.
Yes.
Everyone knows that in the PG-13 you get one F-bomb, so we're not. I'll probably be the one using it most of the time.
I imagine, yes. Unless somebody really did sneak up on us, and then, who knows? I do.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Whoa!
I might turn into who was it? Bobby the Brain on commentary. Somebody snuck up on him and like took his jacket and he dropped an F-bomb on air. I
gotta say, TJ. Now that I have to be honest, now that I think back, I don't think I've ever heard you say the F word.
Oh,
this is weird.
It is. It's rare. It's a rare.
I have heard you curse.
Yes.
Now you don't have a salty mouth like I have a salty mouth.
Mm-hmm.
I think you know that. I think by now you've learned in the years of our friendship that probably every fourth word that I say is some form of vulgarity. Does that seem about a fair ratio?
Yeah, about 25%, 25-30% maybe. Yeah.
Yes,
I think that's fair.
My kids think it's hilarious because they tell me that I cuss without even realizing I'm doing it. And then they'll say that I said something. I'm like, I didn't say that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you did.
Play the tape back.
Apparently, yes, I'm just going to hire a stenographer to stay at home.
Yep. Can you read that back to me, Gladys?
Janice, please, can you read that? I'm being told some malarkey over here. By the way, look up the definition of malarkey. I'm done, by the way, defining words for my kids. Because I feel the older two are 17 and 15. I don't feel... At this point in my life, if I say a word, you understand context clues, you've learned, figure out.
Yeah, you can figure out the gist of it. And you know what? We have these devices nowadays that will tell us pretty much whatever we'd like to know.
It does make you feel really rude, though, to tell someone to Google it.
It's true.
I don't want to be that guy. Like, Google it, bro.
Yeah, it's true.
So, we are here tonight. Right now, we're watching the pre-show?
Yeah.
So we always watch something here on the Film Ironic Podcast. We're big wrestling guys. We're big wrestling fans. We're excited for AEW Full Gear.
Yes.
Which we're actually going to do. Will be before this one. You'll hear it probably before. We're actually going to record one of our podcasts about it. But we're watching the pre-show. So there's Adam Cole. There's the Young Bucks. So if you enjoy wrestling.
Yes.
Go back, listen to the podcast like right before this one.
Yeah.
And it was about the main event of AEW Full Gear, which was Hangman Adam Page versus the best bout machine.
Yes.
Kenny Omega for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship.
That's right.
If that doesn't twist your nethers in any form or fashion that's pleasant, then by all means, just keep listening now.
Yeah.
But when this is done, if you're interested, don't leave now.
Yeah, don't stop listening to this.
Finish this one.
You've made your choice. You've gotten this far into an episode. Continue listening the rest of the way to this episode. But then we
Adam Cole, baby, you're way over.
Yeah.
You know what's really great? I love it when JR will say Adam Cole, baby.
Yes.
It sounds so unnatural and so weird. Also, I like how cranky JR is. My entire life, until AEW, I imagined that Jim Ross, good old JR, was just this like nice, kind of soft-spoken, like country bumpkin kind of dude.
Yeah.
And I say that in the nicest thing. I lived in Oklahoma. He grew up in Oklahoma. He's
Right.
so I have some of the same kind of like inclinations as he does, even
Yep.
if I'm a little bit more boisterous. But he's just the crankiest
He
dude
is.
in the world. He's sassy
Yep.
all the time, and he's just giving it to him. And I love
Yeah.
everything. It sounds like I'm complaining.
No,
Also,
not at all.
JR really doesn't like it when the internet complains at him about things.
Yes.
Apparently that makes him super cranky.
Yes.
Which is all the more fantastic. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, and he does try at times to like kind of poke fun at it, but in a way that you can totally tell
It's
he's
like-
not a fan.
It's like when that Eminem album, the Kamikaze, where he was trying to say that it didn't bother
Oh,
him,
yeah.
that people didn't
Yep.
like Revival.
Yep.
But it was very clear if you listened to any song on that
Yeah,
album,
it
that he
did.
was super mad
Yep.
that people did not like
Yep.
Revival.
Nothing says I'm not bothered by this by going out of your way to talk about how much you're not bothered by it. Oh, it doesn't bother me at all. Let me just explain in excruciating detail why it doesn't bother.
I don't
okay?
care that you didn't like Revival, but let me tell you why you're stupid. Revival's the best rap album ever made.
Right.
Which, I gotta tell you, I don't know why it never hit my radar. I love Eminem. I have almost all of his albums. I've listened to them all.
Yeah.
Except Revival.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember hearing anything from Revival. I think I heard that River song. Wasn't it like The River?
Yeah.
Has Ed Sheeran's in it?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if there was any like.
Either way.
I can't, and that's probably not a good sign either. That I can't think of
Okay, yeah.
what was a song that came from that album. That
Although but just to say, even though you can't poke fun at Eminem too much. He doesn't like it.
Yeah.
I should point out, Kamikaze was fire. Music to Be Murdered By, also fire.
Fair.
Side B, more fire.
Yeah.
And I'm still real mad I'm still upset that for me to get side B, I have to again buy side A.
Mm-hmm.
So Eminem, if it somehow reaches your ears, if you could release just side B,
Standalone.
I already have side A.
Yep.
I don't need Music to Be Murdered By. I get that it's like a deluxe version.
Yeah.
I don't want the deluxe version. I have the original. I just want the
Yep.
new stuff. I preferably if you could put it out on like a vinyl. Like
Yeah.
that would be, that then comes with like a digital download coupon.
And if he wants to just like ship it directly to you, like
Yeah.
with a handwritten note about how thankful.
Or even if you just want to
You know.
come like hang out, have like a fish dinner. I make a nice bronzino.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, whatever.
I'm not asking too much.
I'm open. Hit us up at Film Ironic or at TJ and Awesome, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever floats your boat, whatever makes you feel fancy.
Yeah.
So, trying to get Eminem to be my new best friend aside.
Right.
Why don't you tell the world?
What are we really
Yeah.
here for?
Well, because it's not poking fun at JR and Eminem. Oh, there he is. There's JR,
Yep.
cranky old man. It's not to talk about wrestling. What are we here to talk about tonight?
What are we here to talk about? Well, you might have noticed if you've read any of our many articles on filmironic.com. Cheap plug for the
I love
for the
I
.com.
like it. Cheap plug.
It was almost a Mick Foley-esque
Yeah, like
right here in
Hopefully we got a cheap pop.
insert name
I'm down.
of city here. You might have noticed that we like the comic book movies. We
do
like
like
the
comic book movies.
we like a lot of
And like many
comic-based-
people, we're big. At least I am.
Yes.
I'm a big MCU fan. I
Yeah.
very much like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think going back to being a kid, I always chose Marvel over DC.
Sure.
Which way did you go? Were you Marvel or were you DC? Or were you are you going to be different? I'm an Image guy.
No.
I like Spawn.
I did like Spawn. I won't lie, but I think so. I would say individually, Batman and Green Lantern are probably like my favorites.
Okay.
But I would say like overall, if you took like kind of an average, those two would be like the top for
tier.
me.
I'm with you.
But if you took kind of an average, I would say Marvel. Maybe none of them are my top two, I mean, Captain America's right there. You know, probably
Definitely.
third.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
maybe
you can't go wrong with Batman. I do like Green Lantern.
Yeah.
I like to think of myself, if I got to be a lantern, I'd be an orange lantern. Mine! That's the whole thing.
Yup.
There's only two people who know. I don't know if it's changed now.
Yeah.
But one of the coolest things was, in the DC universe, there is only one orange, or at least there was only one Lord.
Oh,
Do you
yeah.
remember his name? This is
Oh.
Larfleeze. I didn't
Yeah.
even give you a chance to answer because I assumed you weren't going to. His name is Larfleeze. He's the coolest character. I believe in the story he murdered the other orange lanterns so that he could be the only one. And so then when he defeats someone and devours them, he will then create an orange construct of them. And so then the orange lanterns are actually the most numerous and the most powerful, but there's only one actual lantern.
Yeah, one
and there was
living
one
guy.
where because he spends all of his time with his ring just in his lantern.
Yeah.
I believe there was a comic storyline where he had to pull it out and it was charged like 9,047.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, "Whoa, dude! Like, take a break." But I always found this a really interesting thing that they did. Oh, there's a puppy. He's laughing. He's mad. That's okay though. I think it was Blackest Night, and they needed to have. They were trying to defeat the black. Let's see, there's going to be someone in the comment, out in the world who's like, "That's not exactly how it went." I know exactly what happened, but I believe what happens. It was like the Black Lanterns, who were like kind of like zombie lanterns,
Yeah.
not 100% zombie lanterns. In order to do this, they had to have like deputy lanterns, and they had to convince Larfleeze to let someone else be a lantern. And do you know by chance? Do you have a guess on who the other orange? And he's a human. It's on Earth.
I don't remember now.
It was Lex Luthor.
Oh,
and
that
it
makes sense.
And so then, I think to this day, I don't think that they have said the Orange Lantern oath. That it might have changed. I haven't actively read comic books in a long time. But they asked Lex Luthor what it was. What the oath was, and he was like, "All I'll have to say is it was very interesting." And I was like, "Ah!"
That's right.
Lex Luthor doesn't like the whole. Lex Luthor, if I've learned anything about him in my time reading and understanding and watching comic stuff, all he does is run off at the mouth.
Yeah.
That is it.
Anything he knows, he wants to let you know for sure.
But now this one thing that he knows that I really want to know, he's not telling me.
Which makes me wonder, does he know it? Did he just forget?
I think that's part of the
just...
thing. I think you put the ring on and it's just you get to know.
Yeah.
It's super secret rules. So.
Right.
But we're not here to talk about the lanterns.
No.
We're here to talk about the MCU.
Right.
Particularly, we're here to talk about something not in the MCU.
Correct.
Like I told you, when I was a kid, my favorite comic book stuff was Marvel. I was a huge Spider-Man. I loved Spider-Man, especially the 90s cartoon.
Oh, yeah.
But the only thing that was perhaps better than the 90s cartoon, particularly those episodes that had Blade in them, for one.
Oh, yeah.
Like Blade makes sense for a kid, but it was awesome.
They were.
But the only thing that was slightly better was the X-Men cartoon.
Yes.
The 90s X-Men cartoon
Yeah.
was the epitome of cooler.
Yes.
When I was 7 years old. It was amazing. You remember that cartoon?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I feel like Spider-Man was probably the first comic book superhero show that I got into, but X-Men was very close second after that. Like, I remember being a big fan of Rogue, Gambit, obviously. I mean, if you're a 90s kid,
Gambit's right
like,
there.
you have to.
To this day, Gambit is my favorite.
You're kind of obligated, if you grew up in the 90s, to be a fan of Gambit.
He is the coolest character. He throws cards. He's got a stick that he whirls around that he can, make explode into people's chests. He's a thief. He's got all the ladies. If there's any comic book character that's got game, it's Gambit.
Yes, he's got that accent, that Cajun accent.
I'm not gonna
on.
try. I'm not even gonna try.
Yeah, no.
I'm good with
I don't
accents,
do-
but I'm not gonna try to do it.
I don't do.
You know who's
do
also not
impressions.
good with Cajun accents? Was the dude who was Gambit in the Wolverine movie.
Oh,
I can't
yeah.
remember. He was in Friday Night Lights. I can't remember his name
Yeah.
off the top of my head.
Oh,
but
geez,
he
yeah.
also could not do a Cajun.
Yeah,
I don't know if he was trying to do a Cajun accent, but he could not.
right. That's not a good sign either when people listen to what you're saying and think, is he trying to do an accent now?
Is he doing this badly on purpose? Is it a bit? I don't know.
I'm not even sure if he's really trying to do an accent right now. That's a bad sign. It's not a good sign.
No, it's not. But, so to get back to it, one of the things that I think the world is really excited about,
Yeah.
and the MCU fandom in particular, is how and when are the X-Men going to be incorporated into the MCU. So that's what we're going
Right.
to talk about. We're going to talk about kind of the history of X-Men film-wise, like where it's at, why they're not in,
Right.
and
why it could happen.
and why it could happen.
Like now we're at a point where it
Yeah.
actually could happen.
And
But
not
it's a
only-
matter of how to do it.
Yes. And so we're going to try to break down for us what we think the best way
Yeah.
for that to be.
Yep.
So for anyone not aware, which is probably no one, but you never know.
Yeah.
Maybe there was someone who was living in a rock, under a rock, from
Or
the
in a
year
rock.
like 1990. Yeah, they could be in a rock. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna.
Nice
People's rock living lives. I'm not
you know,
judging.
you got a nice 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom hollow rock. You know, that's cool.
Yeah.
Good for you. We're not gonna make fun of you for that. You're a homeowner. Come on. In this economy, come on.
You know, I'm with you. But anywhere they can live.
Yeah.
You just do what you have to do.
Yeah, you do what you got.
But X-Men started. Now, X-Men. A lot of people will point to X-Men as like really starting the boom
Yeah.
of comic book movies, which I think is fair. I think the more accurate film to point to is really starting the point where comic book films that weren't Batman could be viable was
Yeah.
Blade.
Yes.
I
Absolutely.
believe Blade came out first
Mhm.
in 97 or 98, one
Yeah.
of the two.
It was definitely before the first X-Men, because X-Men was like 2000. I
Yeah,
want to say.
that was 99, 2000.
Yeah.
I think you're right with 2000, but it's one of them. But
Yep.
Blade came out first.
Right.
Blade wasn't a huge hit, but it was really the first movie that had Marvel imprinted on the front of it,
Right.
and it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was, you had Wesley Snipes just being all Wesley Snipes,
Yep.
and you can't ask more of Wesley Snipes than to be Wesley Snipes.
That's right.
Oh, that's not fair. I don't know if you've seen. That's not Wesley Snipes. We're sorry. Wesley Snipes, I actually think is a pretty good actor, especially more recently. If you watch it, like he was in that Netflix movie Dolomite Is My Name,
Oh yeah.
and he plays the character he plays in that is very good.
Yeah.
And it's very
It's
not
not
Wesley
Wesley
Snipes.
Snipes. Yeah, no.
And I'm like, holy crap! Wesley Snipes can act as
Right.
not Wesley Snipes.
Well, I think sometimes it's like, when was the last time you saw a Wesley Snipes movie where he wasn't just like
Wesley
himself?
Snipes.
You know what I mean? So like you see that,
There are
and you're
those
like, oh,
stories from like the Blade Trinity where Wesley Snipes on set wouldn't let people call him anything other
Yes.
than Blade.
Yeah.
And he was like sending notes to the director, signed Blade.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if that's Pat Oswalt said that, I believe.
Okay.
But so we can believe him or not. But it sounds like a thing that would be.
it seems believable.
Yes.
It's one of those that like, even if it's not true, you kind of go, well, but I could see Wesley Snipes doing it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So if we're looking at timeline wise, right? Blade came first. Blade like really emblazoned that Marvel logo.
Yep.
People were like, "Oh, this could be this might be a thing."
yeah.
But I wager that X-Men was a bit more of a risk by Fox.
Sure.
Blade was a genre film
Yeah.
that kind of that didn't have as much comic book stink attached to it
Right.
as something like X-Men did.
And it didn't feel like they were really trying to franchise Blade as
Yeah.
much. I mean, obviously they had sequels and stuff, but it didn't feel like you know,
The
they had
movie
this
felt self-contained.
Yeah, it felt like they could have just had one Blade movie, and then it was successful enough that they made sequels, as opposed to X-Men. I feel like they made that first film with the intention of it being
yes.
a franchise, and the intention that they would go on to make more. And so, yeah, X-Men felt like the first kind of stab at like franchising a Marvel property and making it, you know, a bigger
viable
than
to broad
just,
audiences. And so I think if we say that, like, Blade was the spark that started the fire, I think it's also fair to say that the X-Men, the original X-Men movie, was like gasoline that then got poured on the fire.
Yeah.
So we never would have gotten to X-Men, I don't think, if it wasn't for Blade.
Yeah.
But the boom of comic book movies wouldn't have gotten as prolific had X-Men not been such a huge hit. And then that led to Spider-Man, X2, United, which I stand to this day, one of the best comic book movies ever.
Oh yeah.
Even though some of the special effects don't 100% live up, but again, that movie was made like 2002 or 2003,
right?
Something along those lines.
You want to talk about special effects that don't hold up? I mean, there's some special effects in Blade that don't hold up.
Although I did just watch, my oldest son and I watched Blade a few months. I loved every second of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm excited to watch Blade 2 soon and rap every lyric to that Mos Def song.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Eye Against Eye. I could do it right now. I'm not gonna, but I just want everyone to know that if I wanted to, I could.
We'd get a takedown notice direct from Mos Def. Like he, not even his record label or anything. He would just send it to us.
Can you not do this?
No.
Like, I appreciate that you're a fan. I don't go by Mos Def anymore. I don't know what his name is, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't go by Mos Def anymore. But that, my bad rapping aside.
Yeah.
X-Men was really the thing that jump-started everything.
Yeah.
Right? And then we got obligatory sequels.
Yep.
And in a different way from the MCU, and I think even like the Batman films, which were really popular at the same time, those films had a very forward, upward momentum kind of trajectory, whereas the MCU, I like these guys, the Acclaimed are coming out now. You don't know AEW, the Acclaimed, they are very underrated. They need, everyone should give them more attention for what they're doing. I think they're fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a good gimmick that hasn't really been done or done well.
You know what it is? It's Enzo and Cass, except they can actually wrestle and aren't you don't get the feeling that they're just incredible douchebags in real life. You know what I mean? Like you actually kind of think, these guys, it's an act. They're good at this. But it's not.
Enzo and Cass were unless they were naming off cheeses in Wisconsin, they're just the worst.
Right. And the most important thing is the one who doesn't do most of the talking can actually wrestle.
That's true.
Which cannot be said, unfortunately.
But we can't go down the pro wrestling rabbit hole. We're talking about the X-Men.
Yes.
So like I was saying, those films were very rocky. They were very up and down.
Yeah.
So you had X-Men, which I wouldn't say is a classic comic book movie, but it's fun. It really introduced the characters well.
Yeah.
It got everyone to understand. It did all the essential world building it needed in a fun way.
Right.
X2, like I said, it's a diamond.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. Everything about X2, from the Wolverine subplot that was expertly told but didn't overtake the main plot of everyone else, and Stryker, Nightcrawler, and then they blended it together. Yeah. It was just so well done.
Yeah, X2 is probably the best to this day. Still, the best of the X-Men movies.
But then you have the white dog turd. That is X3.
Right.
The Last Stand.
What is it with the third movie in trilogies just like they struggle bus all the time. Like they really do. They like, how hard is it? I mean, I know it is hard. Don't get me wrong. I'm not unaware of these things. I know it is hard to bring a multi-film, storyline and trajectory to a satisfying conclusion, but still, why is the third always the hardest? Why do they just? I don't know why.
Godfather 3,
right?
The worst. Alien 3.
Yep.
I think they try to pretend Alien 3 doesn't even exist.
Right.
Sometimes I think like The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah,
that's a solid third.
It was fine. I feel like so.
But then
often,
modern day, you have the third awful Star Wars
the
sequel.
Star Wars sequel trilogy.
That was that was a fucking shit. See, now I blew. I didn't even. Just even thinking about those stupid Star Wars. I just thank you, George Lucas and Disney. I just blew my one F-bomb on nothing.
To be fair, though, of all the things that would set you off, the third Star Wars sequel is probably
so bad.
It's probably not a bad choice.
I know we're going to have to do a podcast episode one day on how bad that movie. I don't understand how you can make a movie that is that not like underwhelming.
Yeah,
like. The expectations that were heaped onto that movie,
right,
and then just it fell. It's like I'm just gonna do whatever I want and make my hipster bad guy into a good guy,
right? And we'll just bring back the Emperor because
people like him,
right?
Zappy, Palpatine.
Yeah.
What I don't want to. It's gonna make me mad.
Right.
I ruined my F-bomb. I'm very unhappy now.
The point is, though, third movies in trilogies are hard to do for some reason, and
that holds up because so starting with X3, there was a pretty big downfall.
Yeah.
Because X3, I stand white dog turd. I don't know what kind of turd Wolverine would be.
Yeah.
But maybe one that's on fire. Because Wolverine, or X-Men Origins Wolverine, let me say the name of this abomination correctly, was just terrible.
Yeah.
Now, it was, the only thing that was good is how earnest, Hugh Jackman was, and that is the proper way to say it. It's not Hugh Jackman, it's Hugh Jackman.
That's right.
In case, just making sure you know what. That's the only thing that was redeeming. He gave it his all. He got huge.
Yes.
Ripped for that movie. It was directed by Gavin Hood. Had a bunch of other people in it. Agent Zero. But the Gambit, that's where he made his only film appearance.
Yeah.
But the movie was just so...
Yeah.
It didn't break new ground.
Right.
They were telling us the same story that we had already seen play out expertly in X2. So why are you telling me the story of how Wolverine became Wolverine when I already saw the story of how Wolverine got his Wolverine claws?
Right.
This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Why are you doing this? Also, to this, I don't understand. How does an adamantium bullet in his brain cause him to forget?
Yeah.
Also, he has an adamantium coating, so I don't think the adamantium bullet's going to go through the adamantium cell.
Right.
It's impenetrable.
Right. No, didn't make sense.
And just, there were so many things that didn't make sense.
Yeah.
Why the Black Eyed Peas guy was there, Will.i.am.
Right.
For some reason, he's in the movie.
Yep.
He's apparently Nightcrawler's dad, I guess.
Yeah, right.
Okay, I guess that makes sense.
Because we needed that.
Because that's a story.
Yep.
And then they just had so many, they had the Blob. And the Blob was only there to get headbutted by Wolverine.
Yep.
Literally did nothing with one of, the cooler villains that exists.
Yeah.
Even though he's very silly.
Sure.
And nothing about that movie. It
was unnecessary. It was not particularly entertaining.
Been so good.
Yeah. There were things that they could have done with that movie that would have worked a ton better. In the end, it was just a very misjudged
Yes.
movie. Like it felt like they really had a sense of, we need to do something with this character while he's still popular, while he's still kind of culturally relevant, and that was the best that they could come up with, I guess. And then, not particularly.
No, it was uninspired. It was bad directing, some bad special effects. Go back to that scene where Wolverine's claws come out and he cuts the bath.
The sink in the bathroom.
And, okay. Yeah. How did you do his claws so well in the previous 3 movies?
Right.
And now all of a sudden, it's looking like you got the special effects budget from the Barney TV show to do his claws in the Solo movie.
You could have gotten the, gone to the Spirit Halloween store and get more realistic looking claws for him to put on his hands. Yeah.
So I think we've ragged on that enough.
Yeah.
I mean, I could keep going, but for the sake of my sanity, yours, any listeners, let's not do that. So then we go on. I believe the next 2. I can't remember which one came first, but it was The Wolverine and X-Men First Class.
Right.
I think First Class came before The Wolverine, but I'm not 100%.
Yeah, I don't remember specifically. They came out like
I was close to each other.
They were so close to each other, and I was kind of at the point of like, maybe we don't need to do any more of these. I didn't really see them in the theater, so I don't remember specifically when they were released. But it was definitely a time when it was like, you kind of had to convince me to like X-Men movies again.
And that is exactly what happens. And that is exactly what I think those 2 movies were doing.
Right.
The 2 previous outings were so bad.
Right.
So lackluster. Mm-hmm. And they had lost pretty much all of the goodwill that the franchise had, and you were having such success on the other side with the Batman movies,
right?
With Iron Man, with Spider-Man, until Spider-Man 3, but that's another.
There you go. Well, it's another third entry.
It was. They needed to figure out how to build that brand back up. Yeah. And so they took obviously the franchise character, the number 1 guy. They took Wolverine, continued to spin him off, and gave us a much better film.
Right.
It still not as good as a Wolverine film could be, like we finally saw with Logan.
Yeah.
But it was much better than the first one. Mm-hmm. Even if the villains were a little lackluster.
Yeah.
The story. It was relied a little bit too much on prior comic book knowledge.
Sure.
But either way, I forget his sidekick's name. Yukio.
I think something like that.
I think it was her name. She the interactions. That was very much like the Jubilee Wolverine relationship from the cartoon. There was some fun action. The Silver Samurai, even though it came off really wonky,
right?
With once again adamantium destroying adamant didn't make any sense. But whatever.
Yeah.
We're here. This is happening, and X-Men First Class kind of was a prequel.
Yeah.
That kind of showed how the X-Men originally came together with Professor Xavier and Magneto, and it tied in what became commonplace for the franchise, plugging the X-Men into events in world history, and this one being the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah, and it was definitely, unlike X-Men Origins Wolverine, it was telling a new story that we really, we hadn't sort of seen.
And it was very personal.
And
it kind of harkened back to X2, I think.
It was more meaningful than what they'd done previously. It was kind of you got a sense that this film mattered in some bigger sense than that movie. And that was kind of important for continuing the franchise forward They needed to establish, here's why you should care about this other than, ooh, that guy's got knives that come out of his hands. That's cool. You know.
And
like,
they did a lot of work in making, like, they rehabilitated the Beast character, which Beast I thought was really fun in X3, but it felt like he was just thrown in there.
Right.
But his character got some backstory. Mystique was, like, completely revamped, especially after the very sad way she got written out in the third X-Men movie.
Yep.
Jennifer Lawrence was great in the role. I think Jennifer Lawrence is one of the best actresses that's going. I pretty much like everything she's done, except for that Mother movie. I don't know if you saw that. I stopped watching that like halfway through. I did not. It was weird. I'm not going to go into that.
Yep.
But I don't think it really brought the audience back in full, either of those movies, but it made audiences take notice again in a positive light. And they were like, oh, this could be cool.
Right. It kind of opened the audience back up to, I could invest in X-Men movies again, as opposed to, with X3 and...
I do remember now, it was the Wolverine came after First Class.
Okay.
Because the post-credits stinger of the Wolverine was Magneto and Professor X recruiting.
Right.
Recruiting Wolverine. Because this leads into the next movie, which is probably, I would stand, is almost as good, if not as good, but in a very different way than X2.
Right.
Which was X-Men Days of Future Past.
Right.
Which takes kind of a seminal X-Men story that I don't think anyone would have really looked at to make a movie out of.
Right.
And even though they had to change a lot about it, they twisted things around, they used different characters. Like in the comic books, the characters that go back in time were Bishop and Cable, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
But in the movie, it was Wolverine.
Yeah,
with the idea that Wolverine was the only character who existed in all of the timelines.
Right. So,
and he's the only one, because of his regeneration factor, he could withstand getting sent back in time. Because for some reason, Kitty Pryde was able to send... I don't remember how that happens.
Oh, yeah.
But she sent him back in time. But whatever.
Right.
All those little details aside don't matter. We got to see the cool characters from the original trilogy that we like. They're there. Iceman was there.
Yep.
We got new guys. We got Bishop. We got Kitty Pryde, like I said.
Yep.
It was really cool.
Yeah.
And then they throw Wolverine back, and then you get to see Wolverine interacting with the characters from First Class. So it was merging them, and it was letting audiences know into this really fun way that these things are connected, kind of in a MCU kind of way. It's all connected.
And it made, even if you hadn't seen First Class, it made the events of that film matter more than just a prequel, like, oh, we're just going back and filling in stuff that maybe you hadn't heard before.
Yeah.
It was, we're going back with the intention of changing the way that we go forward.
Exactly.
And that was kind of the cool thing with Days of Future Past, and I think that was why it really established that, hey, X-Men movies
can be
good again.
They can be epic in scale.
Right.
They can be just amazing, and took it back to that X2 level of quality that they hadn't been able to achieve. And I think arguably they haven't really achieved since.
Yeah.
I think,
unfortunately, they, the whole idea of let's reboot the franchise and let's bring in this new cast and let's do, new things and more interesting things with it and allow them to go forward. Sounds great on paper.
Yes.
The films that followed maybe weren't up to that level of expectation, but again, it did give us kind of a blueprint for here's what X-Men films could do in terms of like the continuity, how we could make those stories interconnect and make them still matter.
And now they can go, And so I think you're right, because now with Days of Future Past, they hit a peak, and they had been slowly rising, and then you get that kind of roller coaster affecting him. You get Apocalypse, which, I don't think Apocalypse is bad, but I don't think it's great. It's just
Yeah,
it's definitely better than The Last Stand and Wolverine, but it's nowhere as good as the X-Men could be.
Right.
And for following up something as good as Days of Future Past, made it feel even more like a disappointment.
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't enjoy even one moment of Apocalypse. I did enjoy precisely one.
Okay.
It's when they are going to recruit.
I enjoyed precisely one.
Yes, when they were going to recruit, and I'll even ruin that one moment of enjoyment, but still, it's when they're going to recruit Angel.
Okay.
And he's in like the metal shop or whatever.
Yeah.
And he has Metallica playing on the radio, and it's the Four Horsemen.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But
a little on the nose there.
That's exactly why I was like, I love this. He's listening to Metallica, and it's like area specific, and it's like, but
Archangel is without a doubt the coolest version of Angel. Let's be honest.
Absolutely.
I don't know if there's a lot of Angel fans out there. If there are, if you're listening, tell me what do you like?
What do you like?
Regular, winged, Angel-esque Angel, or badass metal wings?
Yes.
Just a burden against humanity. He's got a grudge and he's taking it out. Archangel is my jam.
Yep, he was one of my favorites as a kid too.
But
that one moment of him listening to the Four Horsemen was like, I was like, oh, this is so cool. And then I thought about it and I'm like, oh, that's way too on the nose. Four Horsemen. Oh, I get it. I see what you're doing there, movie. I'm not.
So
I like this, but I don't like it.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way to describe X-Men Apocalypse. I liked it, but I don't like it.
Yeah.
And then we got we got more high points. We got 2 Deadpool movies,
right?
Which definitely are X-Men movies, but they're also not X-Men.
But they're self-consciously he goes to the mansion and is like, I'm seeing.
Why are you two the only guys that are ever
Why are the only ones who are ever here?
And then you see them all shh, we're going to close the door.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Don't look, there's no one else here.
And, those movies are successful. Deadpool 1, I think, is as good as any X-Men. It's in a very different way. It's an R-rated, over-the-top action comedy fest. I love it. Deadpool 2... also great. Didn't quite hit as high as Deadpool 1, but not far off. If Deadpool 1 is an A+, Deadpool 2 is an A-.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And still an A. I'm still happy with it. And then you get Logan.
Yes.
With Logan, to many, is the greatest movie. And there was a lot of talk that, when it was coming, because it got nominated for Oscars, which I actually think it should have won. I don't believe it won, did it?
I don't think so.
But I remember thinking in the moment, when I heard there was it should definitely win, and I looked at what it was up against. Best adapted screenplay, I think is what it was nominated for. It 100% should have. It should have been nominated for more Academy Awards. But there still is that comic book stink attached to it. I don't know why Hugh Jackman didn't get an acting nom.
Right.
He was so good.
Or Patrick Stewart for that.
Oh, Patrick Stewart was so
as
good.
As a supporting actor.
I love cussing angry Patrick Stewart.
Yep.
Very much like JR.
There you go. There's our synergy. We didn't bring that up for nothing. We had a point we wanted to make. It just took us 20 minutes to get there.
So JR, if you haven't seen at JR's Barbecue, tweet him. Tell him to go watch Logan if he hasn't seen it.
Yes.
Draw a corollary between himself.
Right. See himself in the MCU.
But that's critically acclaimed people. Critics are coming out. This isn't just a good comic book movie. It's a good movie.
It's just a good movie.
That's something you could say about a lot of comic books. But whatever. Yeah. Let's not let the bias distract us there. But then you get the utter wreckage that was Dark Phoenix.
Right.
I don't know if you saw Did you see Dark Phoenix? Good. You didn't need to, because it was just a cheap ripoff of Captain America: Civil War done in a very less satisfying way.
Yeah.
They had random aliens there for no reason. That shape-shifting aliens that and everyone wanted the Shi'ar, but there was no Shi'ar. It was nonsense.
I saw the marketing for that and I said, this is not a film I am going to see. Like, this, I am never going to see this. I know exactly right now everything that they're going to do, and I don't like any of it.
Nope,
so
I remember watching that movie, and again, you watch that just like watching Wolverine. How can you do this so badly?
Right.
Especially, like, that is the one thing. They teased Dark Phoenix in X2, and they never lived up to that promise in X3. They just kind of, I guess I have to do this. So Brett Ratner was the director of X3 because they switched. And Brett Ratner was like, well, I guess I have to do this. Fine, I'll do it. But they didn't do that storyline justice.
No.
Well, you know what they also didn't do justice to? In Dark Phoenix.
Right.
I think we should just leave the Dark Phoenix storyline alone. Let's not touch it anymore.
I think that was part of the reason why I didn't want to see it either, was I had this feeling of like, this doesn't feel any more motivated or any more like fleshed out than they did the first time, and I didn't really like it the first time.
No.
So why would I want to sit through that again? Why would I want to do this
especially now when it's the only thing that I have to watch.
Right.
Yes, it is not a good movie. And I think there's a reason they kept pushing that movie back. And it wasn't just because of the Disney-Fox merger. It's because Disney saw that they had a turd.
Yeah.
And they were like, how can we polish this turd enough to... I normally don't do this, but I've called lots of things turds so far.
Yes.
But X-Men's had a lot of turds. That's just the way it is.
I mean, that's just,
and Disney, didn't matter how much they polished that turd, they could never really get a good shine on it.
Right.
And it lost them so much money.
Yeah.
It cost them a huge amount, and it's just not a good movie, like, at all.
Yeah.
And I think that pretty much brings us to, like, today.
To now, right.
Where the only ongoing X-Men property is Deadpool.
Right.
Feige and MCU have said that there will be a Deadpool 3.
Right.
Now, when there will be a Deadpool 3, we don't know.
Yeah.
But all the other X-Men stuff, from X-Force to James Franco's Multiple Man, which, if you didn't know, that was a thing for a while.
Yeah.
It's all scrapped. None of the Gambit movie,
Right.
which they've been promising me for since 2016.
Yes.
Which I still don't understand why I don't have. Listen, get Channing Tatum on the phone.
Yep.
He will do it tomorrow.
Yeah. Maybe
He's down to clown. If I know anything about Channing Tatum, it's that he wants to throw on his southern accent.
Yep.
It's not. I don't think he'll do a great. I don't think he.
Yeah.
I think they're going to abandon the Cajun thing, but he's going to throw on his southern accent. He's
Right.
going to throw some cards, and everyone is going to love it. And at a certain point, he might do some like Magic Mike dance moves, and you know who's also going to love that? Everyone, because it's awesome.
Right. Yeah. So, I think you're right in terms of.
Channing Tatum.
Well, absolutely. First, we need a Gambit movie. You are 100% correct about that. But you're also correct in that now feels like a time where the decks are clear.
Yes.
There's really nothing. I mean, Deadpool, of course, is still kind of out there, but there's a space here where Marvel and Disney, they can kind of do what they want with it here, because obviously the MCU, not that they haven't done anything since Endgame, but
they've been they have been laying groundwork.
Yeah, Marvel's a little kind of, there's still plenty of open space for them to create something.
They've been, since Endgame happened, every film from Far From Home to Shang-Chi, I haven't seen the Eternals yet, but I assume it's going to be the same thing, to even the TV shows.
Yes.
As fun as they've been, and you can go to filmironic.com, you can check out our reviews of Loki, which we are very effusive about. I love Loki.
Yep.
They're great. but
Yeah.
they were all setting the groundwork for the next set of stuff. So
Right.
they're setting the groundwork for the events to happen.
Yeah.
Whether it be Julia Louis-Dreyfus, her character, showing up and just like being there and being a thing,
Right.
and like being kind of like the villainous lady, Samuel L. Jackson,
Yeah.
Nick Fury,
Nick Fury. Yeah. Yep.
being that, whether it be the opening of the multiverse, which I
Right.
think is going to be key
Yeah.
for the X-Men.
Right.
So I'll tell you my theory. So in WandaVision, I thought that WandaVision was going to be acknowledging
Yes.
the X-Men universe and was bringing them, because it was said that Evan Peters,
Evan
who was
Peters,
Quicksilver,
right.
was going to be cast, and he was
Yep.
going to play Quicksilver. I
Yeah.
was like, oh, well, okay, well now we don't need to worry, because now the X-Men, like, they're bringing them in. They're using WandaVision, and if any character can do that, it's going to be WandaVision. Now my theory was she had created this space for herself, and her emotion at remembering her brother, missing her brother, was going to be so much that she was reaching out into the multiverse,
Yes.
and she just grabbed another version,
another
and
version.
it's like, you're here now.
Yep.
But that's not how that worked.
No. They
It was-
teased us. They
yes.
if I can
It was a swerve.
yeah, if I can loosely paraphrase from Futurama, they raised our hopes and shattered them quite expertly.
Yes. And it was, I admit, I was disappointed.
Yeah.
It wasn't, because again, I had spent so much time, 15 years, 16,
Yeah.
however long,
Yeah.
like investing in this X-Men universe, and I think there's a big part of me, and I think a lot of fans just don't want that to be over.
Right.
And with the idea of the multiverse being there, especially with Deadpool continuing on with Ryan Reynolds,
Yep.
I think there's a lot of credence built up for figuring out how to merge these two, even if it's
Yes.
not exact, even
Yeah.
if it's not the exact same, because Days of Future Past set the precedent.
Yes.
Things can change, and they're not necessarily going to be the same.
Right.
And that's okay. And I think that's where we find ourselves now. Now, the question that we have now is, we talked about how the X-Men got to the point where we're at today.
Yep.
We talked about what things look like at the current moment with Deadpool, with the Quicksilver tease. But how do we move on from this moment? Can we
Yes.
even move on from this moment in a logical way? And my gut says yes.
Yeah.
And because of the multiverse.
Right.
It's particularly because, and might be a weird way to take it, because of No Way Home and Venom. This is the Venom sequel.
Right.
In the tease, the tag in the Venom sequel was Venom and Eddie were like arguing, as
Right.
they want to do, and then Venom was like opening up its cosmic knowledge and was going to let like Eddie Brock know some stuff.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they're just transported from like the Venom verse, is what I call it, into the MCU.
Right.
Because when when Venom plops down, Venom is looking at a TV and Peter Parker is on the TV when
Right.
he's exposed as being Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Ostensibly, I believe this is the same. I think they're going to tie it in and say this is the same moment as either when Sylvie in Loki, when
Yep.
she killed the Kang the Conqueror,
Right.
and also the same moment when Scarlet Witch kind of
Yeah.
touched on and kind of opened up and kind of stuck her hand. And all these things, I think,
Like
happen
the same.
at the same
Right.
moment. So I think it would be very easy to say, if all these things happen and then the multiverses are kind of colliding, which is what I think is going to happen in No Way Home.
Right.
I think in No Way Home, I think the Spider-Verse is
Right.
what they're going to do, but it's
Yeah.
the multiverse. But it's just Spider-Man centric.
Right.
It's colliding. So you have all these characters, all these Spider-Man characters from the other Spider-Man movies that are showing up. And there's been a lot of talk. Is Alfred Molina's Doc Ock that Doc Ock. Or
Right.
No, I think it's legit Spider-Man 2 Doc Ock.
Right.
Electro is the amazing Spider-Man Electro.
Yeah.
I think this is the perfect way to introduce the X-Men. Now, how and when do they come? I don't know. Is it in a TV show? Probably in a movie would be a better place.
Yeah.
I think the best debut, honestly, would be like a surprise one where you think like everything is just going to shit. They're going to lose. And then who shows up? Channing's Tatum with his deck of cards. Rogue, Iceman, you get some of the cool characters from the past, and you shove them in there, and you're telling me, I'll tell you right now, Jason Marsden is ripped. He's still ready to go. If you don't think he'd come back and be Cyclops tomorrow, you're insane.
Right.
And that's good. The only person they might have a problem getting is Hugh Jackman.
Yes.
But Days of Future Past showed us you can change things.
Yeah.
So the whole multiverse bit of it, I don't know, different Wolverine.
Right.
Yeah,
and I think that's probably the smartest way going forward is, like, you do want to pick, like, I would say pick and choose some people to bring back, but yeah, you can also say, hey, like, maybe we have a couple of new characters that we bring in that way and, establish going forward.
Oh, we forgot about the
New
Mutants. We forgot about the New Mutants. And
the world
reason
has
we
forgotten
about
that's
the New why.
Yeah. But yeah, like so then that way you can pick and choose if you pull somebody from the New Mutants, if you pull somebody from the original X-Men.
No New Mutants.
I'm not saying that they necessarily would, but if there's somebody that you like, from that, if you can sift through the wreckage and kind of find somebody who's all right, and okay, we'll shine them up a little bit, we'll dust them off, and we'll put them in this role.
So I do think that you're right. I think you are. And to my right, I think this is the best way. And I don't think anyone's going to see it coming because everyone is so focused on Spider-Man. And they're focused on Loki and what's going to happen in Doctor Strange. They're focused on the Julia Louis-Dreyfus and her lady Nick Valentine. She has a really long name, Valentina something. I can't remember her whole name.
Yeah, I don't remember specifically.
They're focused on all, particularly like Daredevil. Is Daredevil going to come back? I definitely think Daredevil is showing up in No Way Home. I mean, I think Matt Murdock will show up. I think Matt Murdock is going to be Peter Parker's lawyer. That's the way I think it's going to happen.
Yep, I could see that for sure.
So I don't think that we're going to get legit Daredevil, but we're going to get Matt Murdock. And if we get Matt Murdock, that means eventually we're going to get
Daredevil's coming. Yeah,
it's going down.
Yep.
Be that as it may, I think all this is distracting.
Yeah.
It is making the audience not think about the X-Men.
Yes.
And that is exactly what they want, so that they can surprise the MCU when I think you get a couple. I think you get like Iceman and Rogue and maybe Cyclops.
Yeah.
Get them to come back with a character like Gambit, who everyone wanted to see, and then a couple other characters that never got adapted to the screen or didn't get adapted very well,
right,
or very prolifically.
Yeah.
So you establish the lines, the connectivity with the established characters. You throw in some fan favorites that everyone's going to want to see, like Gambit.
Yeah.
And then you throw in some new characters just because that's what Marvel likes. They like to introduce new stuff. You have them show up when no one's expecting it. You have them help save the day. And now you have that lead to a new trilogy of X-Men movies. How are the X-Men going to fit into this world that they've been pulled into?
Yeah.
I think particularly this could work really well because the one thing that never really got explored when Fox controlled things was the cosmic side of the X-Men.
Yes.
And that is a huge part of X-Men lore.
Yeah.
Right? I can't remember, like, Juggernaut's, his power came from, like, some cosmic, mystical, I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah.
Someone on the internet, please. I know
Right,
that
right.
you're out there, and I know that you're just. It's called this, but
Yes.
I don't. I can't.
Yeah. No.
My mind is just a swirl with so many like useless pop culture facts that
Right.
sometimes I can't open up the right file.
Sometimes you shake the magic 8 ball and it just says ask again later.
Yes,
So yep, I get you. I'm with you.
But I think this is the best way